Hi, I'm Kimberly Wiefling. I'm thrilled to be here at the CTO Connection. Thank you so much for including me. Today, I'm here to share remote teams that rock. Yeah, a lot of things have changed since last year. I never would have wished for this completely virtualized existence, but I'm thrilled to say that we've found ways to make remote teams rock. So before we start, I'd like everybody to consider that you can connect with people even before you begin speaking by renaming yourself. If you're on Zoom, for example, just click participants, hover over more, and rename yourself with your superpower, your hobby, or your favorite technology. That's one way to start connecting and engaging people meaningfully. Today, give you a little intro, have the art of the virtual icebreaker, some check-ins and check-out tips, how to build trust and psychological safety, and a little glimpse into how to do really complex planning processes and project kickoffs before asking you to take something back to work and implement it with your team. My background, my dad's a welder. I took electronics in my experience with the Air Force because I was going to be a technology person. I got my money for the GI Bill to go to college, and I became a chemist and a physicist. I have a master's in physics, a bachelor's in chemistry and physics, which I'm very delighted to say has served me very well. I worked with Hewlett-Packard for 10 years in engineering jobs and then 3 failed Silicon Valley startup companies. Don't worry, we call them prototypes here. Since then, I started my own business, 2001, have been doing virtual workshops this past year, but before that, I was flying all over the world doing in-person workshops. So you can imagine how much this change in our lives has impacted my life. Wrote a book on project management and also inspired organizational cultures. First of all, let's start with some data. I'm a scientist. Why do teams fail? It's been well known for decades. One MIT study of 70 global teams found that over 80% of them said, yeah, we didn't reach our goals. Specifically, 18% of those teams said, yeah, we're highly successful. And 82% of these teams said, we have failed to reach our goals. And a full 1/3 said, our team just is not successful. Now, why? I hope you're asking why these teams were not successful. Well, the number one reason, and I, as a physicist and technology person, would never have guessed this years ago, the number one reason global business teams fail is they failed to build trust. This was not high on my list when I was an engineer at Hewlett-Packard building trust, and I find that many people do actually skip over that important first step in building a team. Not just remote teams, not just virtual teams, but even in-person teams fail to build trust as an important first step. That psychological safety that we heard about in the Google Aristotle project. Now, the top 4 reasons I think you'll be interested to see are all completely predictable and largely avoidable. They can't overcome communication barriers. And it's not language and culture, by the way. You might think it's just language. No, it's about problem solving and how do we make decisions together. The goals of the individual and team aren't aligned, right? Priorities are different for the individual and the team. And by the way, number 4 is the goals aren't clear at all. Now, if you look at this list, I hope you're saying, hey, whose job is this? This is a failure of leadership. Build trust, make sure people communicate effectively across borders and boundaries of every kind, make sure the goals are clear and the individual and team goals are aligned and that they're aligned with the organization's goals. That's your job, right? So let's start with a few things that can help improve effectiveness in virtual teams. Starting with what might seem a little bit fun and frivolous, but it's really important, the art of the icebreaker. People are busy. People are engaged with all kinds of challenges these days, not only work, but in person. So when you get them into a meeting or event, you got to get their minds and make sure that they're physically and mentally present. So here's a few things I do to make that happen. I like to make the peace sign and the Japanese symbol for money with my hands. Here's how it goes. Put up your right hand, make the peace sign. Put up your left hand. It's like the upside down OK symbol. That's the Japanese symbol for money. Now switch them. Switch them. Come on, try it with me. I can feel you're participating even if I can't see you. Now, the first 500 times of this are the hardest, but that does get your left and right brain working together, all right? Left, right, OK, peace, Japanese money. Another really fun brain opening exercise that my techie friends like is this one. You're going to read the color of the words, not the words. So left to right, top to bottom. So work with me on this. Green, red, blue, yellow, blue, black, red, green, blue. Pretty tough, isn't it? You go as fast as you can through that. Now, if you notice, it's kind of hard to read the color, not the word. Go ahead and read the word, see how much easier it is. Yellow, blue, orange, black, red, green. One last one is to wander around, getting people out of their chairs. Boy, am I tired of sitting in my chair the whole time I'm Zooming. So you're going to get people to get up, wander around their office, and say a different word when they're pointing at things. Like point out a bunch of cookies and call them a caterpillar. Point out a pencil and call it balloons. Point at an ant and call it a perch chart. So you get them to stand up, wander around, point at a rubber chicken and call it a baked potato. Maybe call that a Torx wrench. All right, gets people out of their chair, gets their brains moving. Once their brains are open, now they're ready to engage and connect. Now, sometimes it's important to get people connecting through a check-in process. I like to think of this as bookends for your virtual meetings. Check in and check out. I sat in plenty of meetings where I got there. There were 15, 20 people I barely knew. We just started right off on the content. And at the end, they're like, okay, bye. Really? Seriously, people? No. What you need to do is let people check in and check out. So here's how it works. Create some breakout rooms, tell people go in, talk about what's going on, what's working, what's not working, what's driving you crazy. Give people 3 or 4 minutes, maybe 5 minutes in a room with 3 or 4 people. The best criticism you can get from this when they come back is we didn't have enough time. Imagine a bunch of technical people coming back and complaining they didn't have enough time to talk and socialize. Awesome. That's what will happen. When they come back, you just take some kind of object like a koosh ball and say, hey, let's have a few people look and see who has a burning desire to say something. Pass an object, let them catch something. It's kind of fun if you pass one thing, they catch something else. I like to catch this giant coronavirus where my head gets stuck inside of it sometimes. That kind of visual engagement may sound like fun and playfulness, but it also opens our brain to more creativity and innovation. So do that at the beginning and at the end of your meetings. You don't have to just do it at the beginning, right? So you check in and you check out. Now, once you get people really checked in and engaging and connecting, then you want to go on to how to build trusting relationships. So how do you build trust and psychological safety in virtual teams? Well, you can start the same way you might in person, but here's a visual tool that can help you with that. This is called a life journey line. You give people a piece of graph paper, and my engineering friends love this. They can graph their life happiness as a function of time. Now, the cool thing is you can have 10, 20, 30, 50, 100 people all doing this simultaneously in Google Slides in breakout rooms. So you send people in breakout rooms, send them to Google Slides where you've got these all prepared. They go to the right place and they make their life journey line. Then when they come back, they can give a little bit of a debrief or a one breath introduction. Now, the cool thing about this is you look at these and you see everybody's had ups and downs and everybody has this positivity bias. That's called hope. So this is a wonderful way to connect people more meaningfully, and it works in person or virtually. This is what it looks like. And people who are doing this with each other do find, even if they've worked together for a decade, they learn new things about each other. And I've almost always found that in 2 or 3 minutes of introducing themselves to someone else, they do find something in common, which is, again, a way to build trust and psychological safety. You can do a lot more complex things with these tools virtually than I ever would have imagined. Let me show you what we've done for scenario planning and strategy alignment in some virtual teams spanning the globe. First, we start with a visual. Even if we don't all speak the same language, we can see pictures, we can do a visual collage of the future we're trying to create. This is a group that's creating something for the year 2045. Once you get that straightened out, you can think about what might the news report be saying about you in that fabulous future, create some headlines and get those grouped by topic. Then you figure out, well, geez, if we're really committed to achieving that kind of end state, whether it's in your team, your organization, or the world, then how might we map from where we are today to the future? And this was all done virtually with people from many different countries working around about an 8 or 10 hour process to create something together that none of them could have done alone. Another example is just basic project kickoffs. Like, I'm not going to show you anything too detailed, but here's the big why, the purpose of your project. You can put some concept board tools together to do a stakeholder map and decide, well, who's our number one, number two, number three stakeholder. You can create a scorecard of success through the eyes of the stakeholder, that big what, and measures of success. And you can even go ahead and map your big how swim lane diagram schedule. What should we do this month, this quarter, this year, next year if we're going to achieve that goal together? And someday this pandemic will be over and you might want to have a post-pandemic party. And so I've created a pandemic memories scrapbook. I've been having a virtual happy hour with some friends and colleagues every day since March 18th. We're keeping a pandemic scrapbook just in case we look back and want to have some fun and laugh over those days and say, thank goodness they're over. All right, so knowing how it's not doing, I'd love to have you take your key insights and commitment to action and promise to do at least one thing that you're inspired to experiment with. I'm not saying change everything you're doing virtually, just pick one thing and experiment to change what's going on in your team. No one has to change. Survival is optional. I didn't ask for this pandemic. I didn't want to be completely virtual, but I've been able to pivot everything I do onto the virtual world with companies like Yamaha Motors and the like. And everyone thinks of changing the world, but no one thinks of changing himself. Let's start with ourselves. Let's make sure that we be a role model to the people on our team, and let's lead the way. Thank you so much for your time, making impossible possible.